Welcome, everybody. My name is Red Baron. Thank you for coming to the show. We have a very special guest with us here in-house tonight. I'm doing a little bit of an early Monday morning crypto or Monday afternoon crypto chat. This is going to be a 24-hour Sunday early edition of Crypto Chat. We may have another one again on Monday, but we got some hot information, timely information that we're going to cover. I always like to be able to kind of be the first to kind of drop the knowledge on everybody and make sure that they have what they need to have on time to be able to utilize the information. So, again, my name is Red Baron. I'm from FibbyCharts.com and the UnfairAdvantage.chat, as you see here on your screen. The UnfairAdvantage.chat is our crypto group. We'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing. No charge to join us here. We use automated intelligence charts to predict the future. Kind of, we call it our digital crystal ball, and you can subscribe to those at FibbyCharts.com. And we'll be talking about those here in just a little bit here, but we have a very special guest with us here in-house, and he is actually not only a special guest, but he's also a member of our group over at FibbyCharts.com and the UnfairAdvantage.chat. And he goes by 0 Point Theory, so we're going to go ahead and call him Zero. How you doing, Zero?
I'm good today. How are you doing, Barry?
Doing fabulous. I'm always doing fabulous. So I always doing fabulous when I'm making money. So we're talking about what are we going to talk about? Actually, you had something. Let me give a little precursor before I go fully into the introduction. So this gentleman called me up. We had a little issue that we were resolving, and it had nothing to do with this, and he just started spitting theory at me on XDC. I thought, man, this is an impressive gentleman. I'd really like to get you on the show and have you share your depth of knowledge on this subject, because it is something that I'm not seeing an awful lot of on YouTube. And so he agreed graciously to come on the show here and kind of spit a little knowledge and teach us a little bit about XDC. So without much further ado, go ahead and take it on over.
Hey, Baron, thanks for having me on, man.
No
really
problem.
Appreciate the introduction.
No problem.
So, first and foremost, I kind of wanted to go over the basics of what XDC, also known as XinFin or Infinite Exchange, is. It's an ISO 222 compliant blockchain coin, one of those ones that's going to comply with all the new banking regulations that we love to talk about. And one of the main use cases is something that a lot of people are not aware of, and it deals with something called trade finance.
Could you speak up just a little bit? I want to make sure that everybody has enough. I tend to be a little bit louder than my guests just because of my audio setup. So speak up just a little bit louder so everybody can kind of really make sure they hear you. They don't have to crank it up for you and turn it down for me.
No problem, Baron.
There you go.
I got you
there you
on that. So, XinFin itself has this specific use case called trade finance, which deals with trade finance. And it's going to be this really, really powerful tool that deals a lot with importing and exporting. And so first and foremost, because a lot of people are really unfamiliar with what trade finance is, I wanted to go over it so that people could familiarize themselves with the market and actually the problem that they're trying to tackle and digitize. So the first things first is trade finance. You guys can basically think of it as a set of tools and products that are used by companies to make it possible to facilitate international trade and commerce. Basically what it does is it introduces a third party, the bank, to transactions to remove payment of the supply risk. And it provides the exporter with receivables or payments according to the agreement, while the importer might be extended a line of credit to fulfill the trade order. So this is a little bit different from conventional financing and does not necessarily indicate a lack of funds or liquidity on the exporter side. But really what it does is think of the trade finance product as almost an arbitration tool. It protects against international trade's unique inherent risks, such as currency fluctuations, political instability, issues of non-payment, or the creditworthiness of one of the parties involved. So essentially how it works is you can really think of it almost like PayPal in a buyer transaction that you might do over eBay or Instagram. They're the ones that are making sure that they have the line of credit and the agreement in place, and that if you're actually going to pay the exporter, that the goods get shipped, and that upon shipment and upon receiving, they're also the ones that make sure it gets paid. And this is really huge because a lot of times, as an exporter or an importer working in different countries, one, you may not speak the same language as the person you're buying goods from, nor know any of their international laws.
Correct.
So it really helps, grease the wheels in everything that you're doing. And it also makes sure that, hey, look, if I want to send out a $300,000 shipment and I don't really have a lot of cash flow, I can do that on credit and then get my next shipment out also on credit, and the bank holds this risk. So essentially, I can make a lot more money if I do my job correctly.
Nice.
Now, it's a major market. Right now it's about $7 trillion. Supposedly it's going up to about 10 trillion by the end of 2026. But there's some really key players in here.
Such as?
So first and foremost, they have a partnership with the International Forfeiting and Trade Association.
Now, I'm sure everybody knows what that is.
So the International Forfeiting and Trade Association is something, again, just like you stated, a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah.
But essentially what it does is it's a worldwide trade association for companies, financial institutions, and intermediaries engaged in global trade, forfeiting, supply chain, and receivables financing. So, they have partnerships with giant banks, HSBC, Santander. And if you actually go on their website and you look at the board members, just the banks listed alone here. First and foremost, SMBC Bank International, Crown Agents Bank. We got Zhang Mei, Bank of China, Credit Suisse, Switzerland, BNY Mellon, HBC, Santander, and the Credit Europe Bank, NV. But interestingly enough, there's this figure in here called Andre Casterman. And Andre Casterman is actually one of the main advisors to XDC, and he is very, very much a key player. Now, why is he such a big figure, and who is he? Well, a lot of people don't know a lot about Andre Casterman, and, even looking at his LinkedIn, some things might fly past you. And I would suggest everybody, when they get an opportunity, to go to his LinkedIn page, scroll to the very, very bottom of his whole career experience and read through it. And some of the things you're going to find are two primary key things that I want you to look for. First is the International Chamber of Commerce, or the ICC, which has direct connections with the World Trade Organization and is one of those major international players that facilitates world trade. But, in terms of the XRP community, something that they'll be very familiar with and would like to know as well is that Andre Casterman was actually at Swift for 24 years. Now, for the last 3 years alone, he was the managing director and global head of corporate and supply chain markets, which, considering what XinFin is trying to target with this whole TradeFinex platform, it seems pretty convenient to me. Don't you agree, Baron?
Very much so. Very much so. Explain the link. So when we're talking XDC, take this really down to street level. So you're saying XinFin, that could be interchangeable with XDC in the minds
exactly.
Okay. So folks, when he's talking XinFin, spell that for them.
So XinFin is XinFin. And
so that is interchangeable. That would much be as interchangeable as saying Ripple XRP. Kind of the same thing in a way.
Exactly.
That connection. So what we're talking about is the token XDC when he's talking about this.
100%. And it's good that you made that clear, because sometimes it does get in confusion with people. I know sometimes you see on the news and the different articles people referring to XRP or Ripple as ripples. So
right.
I'm glad we made that distinction.
Right.
So another couple things too as well, just in general about trade finance and the coin itself. I previously stated it's an ISO 222 compliant coin. But another very, very interesting thing too as well, it's actually Ethereum virtual machine compatible to run smart contracts. So they have a whole plug and play system where they can essentially port over developers' code from Ethereum without any changes to it whatsoever, literally copy and paste and put it on their platform. Now, why is this so huge? Well, look at Ethereum's gas fees alone. Sometimes it's $200 for a transaction just to run a single smart contract.
It's insanity, and I honestly, you know full well, because you're a member of our group, how often I rail against the cost. I absolutely despise ERC20, and sadly, if you really want to get into the growth coins, you got to play the game. You got to get in, and it just sucks. They are not trade coins because of the cost of gas. You got to get in them and hold them. They're hodl coins, or don't even bother.
I'm in complete agreement with you, and we're starting to see a shift in the mentality because people understand the pricing and they understand, well, look, if I want to send $10 of a coin, I'm not going to spend $20 to do it. It makes no sense. And so they've actually positioned themselves to have a huge competitive advantage. Not only that, but if the developers can pull over their code directly in there and then not pay any gas fees, all of a sudden a whole new world opens up for everybody just in terms of blockchain and being able to afford and use smart contracts,
Correct.
especially on a lower level.
I've often thought that the folks are making out like bandits on the gas fees right now. Those days are coming to a screeching halt very, very soon. I mean, it's right now it's the wild west, and they can get by with it. But there's an old saying that comes from my economics teacher taught me, and it's an old saying, but it's still as relevant today as it always has been. Excess profit breeds ruinous competition.
Wow. That is much a true statement as I've ever heard.
Yeah, and so if you leave that much money on the table, somebody's going to do it better, faster, stronger, cheaper. And so I'm looking. Please let that be soon, because this Ethereum, it's just highway robbery, and it's a necessary evil. But it's exciting to hear that there is alternatives on the way, though.
Yeah, 100%. And look, again, competition itself will essentially breed new avenues for that to occur, and I think we're seeing it here with XinFin, as well as a few other platforms that are going on right now.
Right.
So another thing too, as well, just to understand a little bit about the coin. Right now I believe it's trading at around 14 cents or so.
1482.1482. I've got it up on screen right now.
Beautiful. The current market cap, from what I can calculate on it, it's about 1.7 billion or so. Which is important to note. Look at XRP's market cap. What is it, about 45 billion or so?
It's been a while since I've looked, but that sounds about right.
But the reason why I want to compare the two is just in terms of token. XDC only has 37.6% of the supply max that XRP ever will. So they have 37.6 billion tokens available, and they will not create more. So that's something to note, that their supply is 63% less than that of XRP. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to tackle the same use cases, but knowing that in terms of a value proposition, I think it's huge. So a couple things to note, too, as well. About a few days ago, there was a screenshot that was floating around online. And, one of the big things in this crypto space is we buy the rumors and we sell the news. And the screenshot was a rumor that China is trying to run a test with this Singapore-based blockchain, XinFin XDC. Now, it would make a giant amount of sense, being that China is a huge producer and exporter, that they would take a significant interest in this trade finance-focused blockchain. I mean, they have the most to gain, being one of the world's largest producers, do they not?
Correct.
So, the rumor is that they're going to pump about $45 billion through XDC's platform, which at their current market cap of about 1.7 billion, that would increase things a great amount. I mean, it's basically a 30x gain right there. Now, it's just a test, but a test of $45 billion is no small drop in the bucket.
Not a little bit.
So, I mean, if we look at a 30x gain at 14 cents, we're probably looking at somewhere at $4.20. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen right off the bat. Again, it's a test. Understand that. Mm-hmm. But, there is a huge room for growth in this whole opportunity. And knowing that trade finance is a $7 trillion current market, and they only have $1.7 billion of the market itself, there's a lot of room for growth here. They have
one of our viewers, one of our people in chat right now is asking, what's the practical use of it?
So the practical use is essentially to bridge the gap. There is right now about a $1 trillion gap that banks are not covering in costs to essentially get a lot of this trade finance covered. So they're trying to basically use the token itself not only to track and manage trade itself, but to also run the smart contracts too as well. So if the banks don't have to essentially do the bill of ladings and things like that, there's going to be less of a float. And eventually, I think that the idea is to run it off some sort of AI system to automate this whole process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another interesting thing, too, as well. Regarding that whole China rumor, Andre Casterman a couple days ago posted a link about this digital negotiable instruments initiative that would take place in about 2 weeks from today. And he's been stating for a very long time in October, funny enough, Baron, you're going to love this, that there would be major proof points occurring for XDC.
Mm-hmm. I found on Cryptopolitan, Ripple competitor XinFin hires Andre Casterman. Is that the article you're talking about?
So no, this one's actually posted directly to his Twitter, and they do have some different LinkedIn pages as well. Now, the quote that's coming out of the DNI initiative, which you guys can read more on the IFTA site, or itfa.org site, and what it is, there's one specific quote I want to focus on. And this is the quote. The aim of the DNI initiative is to fully digitize bills of exchange and promissory notes. In order to achieve this, we identified the need to combine advanced document technology with electronic signatures and distributed ledger technology, whilst developing the appropriate contractual schemes and, where if needed, lobbying to change the law. It keeps going on to say, it is unlikely that the digital negotiable instruments would be valid under the current English law. ITFA has therefore lobbied the UK government for a change in the law and is working with the Law Commission and the International Chamber of Commerce, UK, to achieve this. As a practical, but hopefully only interim solution, we have therefore, working with our legal advisor, Sullivan, created a digital equivalent of the Bill of Exchange and Promissory Note that operated as the functional equivalent of the same instruments under the English Bills of Exchange Act 1882. So they're heavily in bed with the lawmakers right now, looking at every single aspect here and even going around and taking laws from 1882 and incorporating into their current market structure. It would seem to me that this company's pretty on top of it.
Very much, very much. So anything more you want to cover on that point?
So yeah, just a little bit more too, but the post itself, that was the quote from, if you go a little bit deeper into the DNI initiative, but when he posted it, he said, 2 weeks to go and we'll demonstrate how highly specialized technologies help financial institutions address two of the most strategic and promising trade finance market ambitions. And then it goes on to say the DNI initiative with Inigio, Finastra, and China Systems to help originators embrace these instruments for negotiable trade thanks to policy guidance by Law Commission of England and Wales. Interesting enough that China Systems is mentioned there with the recent screenshot coming out about that $45 billion test. Might be nothing, but, sometimes things happen.
Oh, there's always a little element of truth in these things, as I come to find.
Mm-hmm. But so that is primarily, what I have on XinFin. I'm more than happy to answer any questions as well.
Yeah, guys, if you got anything you want to shoot them a question, now's the time to be asking, because you got a very, very versed, I won't say professional, but someone who's clearly dug very deep into this that would is at your disposal here. So if you got questions, absolutely. Now, I have a couple of things that I want to interject here as part of this. Now, one of the things we discussed pre-show, this fits the bill as far as we've speculated about the great coin washout. We've got, oh Christ, who knows how many, about 25,000 of these damn things out there. What's going to last? What's not going to last? This has one thing in its back pockets. It's going to make sure that it lasts, doesn't it? It's an ISO compliant coin.
ISO compliant coin, but not only that, they're literally going into laws right now with Casterman, who works with Swift, and they're doing the back trenching for the whole thing. So not only is it ISO compliant, but they're working on making sure this thing's going to be an ark that floats on the flood that's coming.
Correct. So to kind of dumb this down a little bit, I don't mean to say it disparagingly, but for those of you who just don't have time for the details and stuff, if you ever hear of a coin that is ISO compliant, I want you to pay double close attention to it, because it's a coin that's always going to do well. Sorry, there's no other way to put it. it's going to do well because it complies with my number one rule: don't ever bet against the bankers. Right?
Love it.
Right.
Yes, 100%.
Because if they've gone to the trouble to do all this stuff that you're talking about, like digging clear back 100 years in the law, bringing on people that already have ties to SWIFT, which is the old guard way to move money around the planet, these guys are not dummies. They think the long game. They're ready to put something in place, and if it takes them 6 months, 12 months, couple years, they're going to do it. But when they flip that switch, I promise you one thing: it's not going to be 14 cents anymore, is it?
No,
Not
not
even
at
close.
all.
Not even close. So this is truly one of these coins, and this is why I bring this to you now, because just the other night I posted this. I brought XDC into the Platinum group not that long ago, but just last night I was watching it here, and I took a position. Literally, I don't know if you can see the screen, but I took a position at 12 cents, knowing, so I just made 22% today.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm watching it to break out of this channel, and we're heading towards what I think is going to. This thing's kind of being a bit of a breakout. I've been busy doing stuff around the house today, but I had no doubt in my mind this was going to do this because this was what we call an opening and a closing move. So those of you who are watching my screen know that this is something that's very common to our AI system, as we can predict these things are going to move with a certain thing called velocity. So it was no surprise to me that this was going to happen. Now, will it go up higher? There's still a little bit of gas left in the tank on this. Some of these, like Algorand, for example, another ISO compliant coin, there's just going to be these coins that, my God, I mean, it's going to be hard to fail. It's really going to be hard to fail holding over the long term, holding ISO compliant coins. So let's back up a little bit and let's talk about what's so special about coins that start with the letter X. You and I had that discussion on our last little talk off.
Oh, yeah.
Off. So why do some of these coins have XRP, XLM, XDC? What's up with the X?
Well, from my understanding, X is an international symbol of exchange that puts them in relation to no country. It almost makes it similar to a commodity. And if you'll notice, some of the most heavily traded precious metals, specifically such as gold, the trade ticker starts with an X, XAU. And given the denotion of the importance of gold and other things going on, having something like that as the X is incredibly important, at least in my viewpoint. What do you think, Baron?
Well, basically, as I look at this, is anything that starts, well, not anything. I mean, there are a few outliers that just throw a letter X up just for shits and grins. But if we're talking about an ISO compliant coin, and if we're talking about a coin that starts with X, what you're really ultimately talking about is world money. You're talking about borderless money. U.S. dollar is the U.S. The yuan is that's China. But when you start talking about anything that starts with an X, the point of that is to have it be an international coin used internationally by multiple jurisdictions in multiple different countries. So keeping an eye on those like XDC, XLM, XRP, no lose in my book. No lose at all.
I'm in complete agreement with you, and I think based on some of the laws that we've discussed here today, it's clearly demonstrated in the coin itself.
Yep. Anything else you want to add? Any of you guys want to throw any questions at him here? We had a couple minutes here. We were just going to do a real quick show here, just cover this, because this thing is blasting off. I'm not seeing a pullback immediately here. I mean, we're gaining some pretty serious ground. I haven't had a look at the general market today because I've been busy with personal stuff today. However, I am still calling for a possible little bit of a hard correction and stuff. That's not going to be broadly across the entire market. Some of these things are just going to be breakout superstars. Like Solana, like XLM, XRP, XDC may not follow the pullback. But the broad market and stuff like that, we're expecting the big blast off to be in the third week of October for everything. So those of you that were on live stream with us a couple days ago with our psychic Veronica, she's going to be joining us again here next Thursday. We've got even more fun and games that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about some really, really woo-woo stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. So until next time, we're just going to go ahead and break out here and cut this off quick. Just wanted to kind of get this out and just share a little something with you guys as a surprise show. So until next time, this is Red Baron for FibbyCharts.com and The Unfair Advantage, along with my new friend here. And until next time, be safe, be good, and be good at it. Peace and hair grease, baby.
Thank you.